YouTube, how the heck we doing? Today, we're going to talk about how to rank up inside of the limited format. This is going to be for people who are looking to maybe hit Diamond or Mythic this season since we're in a fresh season. So stick around till the end because I'm going to give you all of my thought process on how to rank up, how to get there, make sure that you're consistently ranking up, and so that way you can see good progress inside of your games. If you guys get value out of this content and you think that it's helpful or you just enjoy my content, make sure you click the subscribe button so that way you don't miss any videos. We're uploading Strixhaven 3 times a week at least, even sometimes more than that. I love the set so far. Make sure you guys comment down below how you feel about the set and click the like button if you guys enjoyed the video. Alrighty, everybody, welcome to another Strixhaven draft. Today we're going to focus on ranking up and what makes you better at ranking up. So we're going to just talk about consistently making the right picks and being into the open color, which will always get you at least 5 wins, right? So staying 4 or 5 wins will always rank you up. You don't need to have something that's necessarily like a 7-win deck all the time. So let's focus on this. So like here, the best card in the pack is Frost Trickster, which is why I'm just going to take Frost Trickster. There's no need to read into it. You just want to take the best card that you can early in the packs. So you'll see here, in these packs, we have like Combat Professor, Mentor's Guidance, and Kelpie Guide, all decent cards. And then we have Mage Hunter's Onslaught, which is probably the best card in this pack. Mage Hunter's Onslaught doesn't really go with Frost Trickster. However, it is the best card in the pack, and we don't know what color is going to be open yet because we can't read the signals. So I think that we should just probably take Mage Hunter's Onslaught. It's good to note what is in the pack when you're passing it, though. So, for instance, Mentor's Guidance is decent. We have a Wizard here, and you can usually get 2 copies. Sometimes you get 3 copies out of this, right? And Kelpie Guide is very strong if you're in Quandrix, right? So, but this is basically a 2-color card, so it's not really something to read too much into. So you'd be basically committing to Quandrix if you're picking this card. You're not really going to play it in like a Prismari deck, for instance. So here we have the option of Witherbloom. We could go Silverquill as well. I do think Prismari is the strongest in the format, but it's something that's worth considering. For now, we're just going to take Mage Hunter's Onslaught, and we'll kind of see where the next pack leads us, and we'll start to get signals around 4th to 5th pick, but we should know what's in the pack. So here, we have Vanishing Verse, and this card is super strong, right? So now we're getting a little bit rewarded for the Mage Hunter's Onslaught that we picked, because we're seeing there's a Frost Trickster, there's a Vanishing Verse, there's a Lash, and all of these cards these are the 3 best cards in the pack, right? So now we could say if we want to prioritize Frost Trickster or whether we want to prioritize removal. So with this, if we took Vanishing Verse, we would be looking at playing a Silverquill deck that is going to be more on the controlling side. Pretty normal for the Silverquill decks to be more on the controlling side. This is actually a difficult decision because we have a really good, like I'd say this is like a 3.5 out of 5. And this is also probably about a 3.5 out of 5. And we've got a 3.5 out of 5 and a 3.5 out of 5, right? So, yeah, you know, like all really high quality cards on what we want to take. I think this is actually a pretty difficult pick. Honestly, I'm not 100% sure what I want to pick. I think I'm going to take Vanishing Verse. I just like to err on the side of picking up removal. This could definitely be wrong and pick Frost Trickster instead. But now we get a huge reward for this Vanishing Verse, right? There's a Tenured Inkcaster in here, and this card is just a fantastic card. This card's a total bomb, especially in Silverquill. It just usually can just end the game because you have 1/1 counters on some of your stuff. So it'd be that versus Expel, which is decent in the control-y decks. And then the rest of the cards, you know, there's not really much blue of note here. So I think picking the best cards in the pack have really rewarded us so far. All right, so now here we have to decide. Now we're starting to get to a little bit lower quality cards, and we're kind of going to see what's starting to be open. So you can see a Past Caller in the pack. This is good if you're in Lorehold. There's an Owl and Shield Mage, which isn't great, honestly. It's okay. But honestly, this pack's pretty weak overall. I think we're just going to take Dueling Coach, because I think this is probably the best card, even though it's not great. I mean, but it does fit really well in the Silverquill deck. It also synergizes with Tenured Inkcaster pretty well. Now here we have an interesting one. We have Environmental Sciences, which I'm a huge fan of. I think it's just really good to guarantee your consistent land drops. We have a Spiteful Squad, which goes with our 1/1 counter synergy. And we have a Hunt for Specimens, which is pretty good with Environmental Sciences. I don't necessarily want to take Hunt right now because I don't already have an Environmental Sciences. Spiteful Squad is decent. I've been pretty impressed with it overall if you're in the right deck. And I do think we are looking to be a Silverquill deck now. The Silverquill looks like it's going to be pretty open from what I'm seeing. just based on the cards that are wheeling. So I'm going to take Spiteful Squad. I think it synergizes well with Dueling Coach and Tenured Inkcaster, and we'll probably go towards a 1/1 counters deck here. I don't think Star Pupil's actually good. Even in the 1/1 counters deck, I'm not a huge fan of it. It's just not really consistent, so it doesn't really do much. Novice Dissector's okay if you're looking for 1/1 counter synergies. I think it's probably the card we're going to take out of this pack. I think it's a little bit better than Divine Gambit, which I think is the other thing we would take, or Introduction to Annihilation. So I'll take Dissector. I don't mind having one Intro to Annihilation in my sideboard just to beat troublesome permanents that we already couldn't deal with. So we're here in a fresh season, basically, guys. So right now, I think we're starting out in the gold category. We were diamond last season, compressed down since it's day 1 of the season. And I think this is going to be a really good example of how to just consistently work yourself up towards Mythic by just keeping these very fundamental practices going. So I'm going to take Inkling Summonings here. I just think it's good out of the sideboard for a lesson. It creates a flying creature. Evasion's really good. So something to always keep in mind, guys, is use bread. So prioritize bombs, then removal, then efficiency, and then evasion. So evasion and efficiency in the same spot. And then if all else fails, just draft aggressive. Campus Guide versus Biblioplex Assistant. Biblioplex Assistant is actually not terrible in this deck. Typically, we'll have a lot of removal spells, but I do think I want Campus Guide here. Just guarantees our land drops. We want to make sure that we have consistency in this deck. So if we take Campus Guide, for instance, then we have the consistent ability to hit our land drops. Now we have Defend the Campus, Owlin Shield Mage, or Elocution. I think Elocution's extremely underwhelming, even in the 1/1 counters tech. And you've got Shield Mage here as well, which I think is like pretty medium. I think Defend the Campus is a decent removal spell, though, and it doubles the pump spell if we need it. All right, so Lash Wheeling is a huge sign here, right? Because Lash is, we were considering picking Lash for like 4th pick, and now we're getting an 11th pick. So this is a huge sign that Black's open. But like I was saying, reading signals is a really big deal, especially in Strixhaven. I think you get rewarded a ton for reading signals in Strixhaven. So we kind of have the signal that like blue is kind of open. I think all these cards are kind of mopey, so maybe people just didn't want them besides Aerialist. Aerialist is a little bit of a signal. Then we'll just take Professor's Warning here. It puts a counter on something. Then we're kind of just going to finish out picking up the rest of this pack. All right, so let's take a look at what we've got. So Draconic Intervention. This card is a complete blowout if you can play it. But a lot of times you can't. You have to be... I think this is pretty much a Prismari card. Obviously, it's not going to work for us, so can't really take it. However, the best cards in the pack are Draconic Intervention, Heated Debate, followed by Cultivator, Explosive Iteration. Unfortunately, we can't take any of those cards. I think here we're going to take Pillar Drop Rescuer. I think it's a little bit better than Pilgrim. There's also a Curve in here, so whoever's in the Prismari deck is going to have a lot to choose from with Curve, Shredder, Debate, Intervention, Iteration. There's like 5 Prismari cards in here. So whoever the Prismari drafter at the table is going to get hooked up pretty good. And then the Quandrix drafter will get Cultivator, and the second ramp drafter will get Leyline Invocation here. Out of this pack, I don't think we're going to wheel anything. Maybe Defiant Strike or Pilgrim. All right, so this pack is a little interesting. So we see that we've still got a decent red removal card, good green card. It looks like the rare's missing out of this pack. So that doesn't really tell us too much. Damogoth Woe Eater in the pack too. We could shift into Witherbloom if we really wanted to. Maybe splashing some of the white cards, but I don't know if I really want to. Divide by the 0 is also really good for the blue decks. Here, I think we just take Leech Fanatic. I think it's just okay, where you can put counters on stuff, and it attacks as a lifelinker. So it keeps our life totals padded. I think Show of Confidence will come back to us, and we might play it. All right, so this is a little strange now because we have a Humiliate. which I'm not a huge advocate for discard in limited. However, I do think this card is kind of okay because it always gives something, which is the 1/1 counter back half of it. And 2 mana for a 1/1 counter is not a great rate. However, in this deck, it does matter quite a bit more. So I think we're going to take it. It's probably a little bit better than Hunt for Specimens. And it does trigger Magecraft as well. Wow. Igneous Inspiration, pick 4. That's really late. I'm starting to wonder if we were supposed to shift colors here. I did see some signals that told me that I should be changing, but I don't know if I'm still quite at that point. Okay, let's assume we dropped 1, 2, 3, 4 cards. We'd be passing an Essence Infusion to take this. I guess this is probably worth it as a speculative pick. This card's just really, really good. Wow, Inkcaster and Flunk in the same pack. This is just kind of unfortunate for us because we would actually like all 3 of these cards and the Expel. Honestly, there's 4 cards in this pack we would take. I think Inkcaster is super good though, so let's just take Inkcaster for now. I doubt Flunk wheels, but you never know. Whoa. 6th pick Flunk. I wonder if there just wasn't a lot of black in those last packs we were seeing. I think we just take this. I do like Environmental Sciences, and I don't have one yet, but I think Flunk's just too good to pass. All right, so now we've got an interesting pick. We've already got 3 5-drops that I all think are better than Shield Mage, so I think we just want to take a Crushing Disappointment at this point. It's just a decent draw, too, for a control deck. Here, I don't see a whole lot that we really want to fight for. Like, this is like last pickable, last pickable, last pickable, some lands. Yeah, this pack's just not very good. Interesting. So Shadewing Laureate is an interesting one. We don't have a lot of flyers. We have Pillar Drop Rescuer. But it's also just a 3-mana flyer of itself, so we don't really need it to trigger much. I mean, it's just a 3-mana flying 2/2, which I think is fine. Yeah, so here you can tell that there's not really anybody drafting Prismari. Maybe there's one, because the Draconic Intervention's gone. But oh, I guess the Heated Debate's gone too. But yeah, there's Expressive Iteration, Curve, and also Tome Shredder in the pack still. And it looks like the Quandrix Cultivator did get picked, but there's a Leyline Invocation here as well. Interesting. I think I'm going to take Divine Strike for now. I might play it, just as a cantrip. Alright, so let's take a look at what we have in this pack. So we have Defiant Strike, Lash, Professor's Warning, Flunk, Humiliate, Verse. That's a decent amount of early stuff. We might be able to make a Show of Confidence work. I think we're going to remove this Igneous Inspiration for now. I don't think we're splashing. Interesting. We have another Show of Confidence and an Ageless Guardian. There's also a Creative Outburst in here still. Man, this Prismari is very open. For how strong that archetype is, I think it's very strange that people aren't drafting it. How many creatures do we have? That's the real question. 1, 2, 3 on the 2-drop slot. I like Essence Infusion overall. I think it's a little bit better than it. I'm not a huge fan of Arrogant Poet. Alright, so Spectre Wield. And then now we're just going to kind of pick up the last garbage out of the pack. Might even play that. Alright, let's hope to open something good. So we have... Again, the Prismari deck seems to have just, I don't know, the best in the pack. We got Heated Debate and Dustspeaker. Lorehold gets Historian here for our drafters. There's a Lash in the pack, which I think this is what we're going to end up taking. And then a Spiteful Squad. I might even want another Ageless Guardian. I think it wears counters pretty well. It's pretty resilient. We're going to take Lash for now. Okay, so Killian is interesting. Do I have anything that really targets it? I mean, this costs 1. This would cost 1. Other than that, not really. But the card is just decent, even on its own. Yeah, we'll take Killian, I guess. It's a little hard to cast on curve. Oh. Well, this is decent. And if we have a Killian out, we could target our opponent and Killian. Not bad. We have an Umbral Juke as well. I would like to take Umbral Juke, but obviously Silver Quill Command is just better. So take Silver Quill Command here and see where we go. Wouldn't mind seeing a Leech Fanatic come back. So right now, I know you guys have noticed that I'm basically talking about all these cards that I'm seeing, like maybe this will come back, this Pilgrim, or maybe this Some Biology comes back. Obviously, we're going to take Dramatic Finale out of this pack, so we should think about what are the best cards in the pack, right? There's Inkling Summonings, Pilgrim, Symbiology that we would take, right? Just as decent playables. So we should think, well, if these come back, then we know that our archetype is open. So for now, I'm just going to take this time to clean up my curve a little bit and get rid of some of the cards I don't think I'm going to play. So I'm going to get rid of Crushing Disappointment, Novice Dissector. I've already got a lot on the 4 slot. I might get rid of Defend the Campus as well, because we're putting another 4-drop in. Maybe a Show of Confidence. And then now we have a little bit better of an idea of what we should be expecting, or what we're expecting our curve to look like. Definitely going to take this Killian here. Like I said, Killian's just really good. Lash is also super good, so it's kind of hard to say, but I do like Killian a lot. So looking at the curve here, we know we've got decent 2s. I probably don't want Show of Confidence. I probably don't want Campus Guide at this point with double Killian. Promising Dusk Mage versus Professor of Symbiology. What do we have out of the sideboard here? Inkling Summonings? Inkling Summonings isn't bad. Symbiology trades with a lot of stuff. Could get Hunt for Specimens as well, but I think Symbiology is a little bit better. We'll take Symbiology here. Combat Professor is very good. We also have Beaming Defiance if we want to try to play some kind of reactive game. I think we're just going to take Combat Professor, though. It's just a good card. Don't get baited by this. This card does not kill creatures. It's just Artifact, Enchantment, Planeswalker. Don't play something like this. It's way too situational and limited. So you can't really... You don't want to play something like Fracture. I'll take Beaming Defiance here. Alright, so we picked up a 3-drop finally in Silver Quill Pledge Mage, which is good. I don't think we'd play a second Professor's Warning, but we'll take it just in case. Dusk Mage versus Spiteful Squad. 2 Spiteful Squads could be really powerful. Yeah, I think it's probably a little bit better than Dusk Mage. Well, actually, 1, 2, 3, 4. We already have 4 2-drops. Or 4 4-drops. Probably fine with that. I'm going to remove the Archivist for now. Take the Pilgrim. I like this. It guarantees our land drops. What we're looking for now is just consistency in this deck. I think we cut Professor's Warning and Defiant Strike. Taking the Lash. And we can kind of turn it into a little bit of a control deck here. We might be able to cut Pillar Drop. Alright, and then we can take another Beaming Defiance here. Alright, so let's take a look at our packs and see what we all have. So right now, 3 Lashes tells me that's great for if we're playing control. I don't know if I really like the 2 Beaming Defiances. Just looking at our curve of what we have. We want things that leave counters behind. So like Essence Infusion wants to be our pump spell. Humiliate. Maybe we do want a Show of Confidence. Could distribute quite a few counters. I guess we have Spiteful Squad to distribute a counter too. And we get Inklings out of Dramatic Finale. Maybe we don't need it. Maybe we cut 1 Promising Dusk Mage then. Maybe we can even cut 2. So we really don't have much to drop counters. It's just Essence Infusion and Humiliate. That seems fine. Let's cut it then. Probably going to be looking to be a little bit more aggressive than that with our counter placement. Definitely a 17 land deck. I could see cutting Ageless Guardian. Card's okay, but not great. I keep coming back to this Pillar Drop Rescuer. I think I'm going to cut it. So we'd run something like this, as you can see. Let me sort it for you real quick. All right, so now we're split. We can see our spells. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 removal spells, which are all decent. We've got 1 pump spell, a discard spell, and 1 bomb rare that does a lot of stuff. So our actual creature base is 4 2-drops, 3 3-drops, 4 4-drops, 2 5-drops. We've got a decent amount of power in each one of our cards. Shadewing Laureate is okay. It doesn't really do much for us with flying, for instance, but we do have Dramatic Finale, which does make Inklings, and we have a couple ways to make Inklings. Symbiology can get one as well. So I think we're going to run something like this, so you guys can take a look at this. If you're looking at anything else, if you have any questions about the cards, feel free to let me know. Alrighty, everybody, so here we are with game 1. Looking at a decent hand here. We've got Killian into Shadewing, both evasive creatures. And then we've got Inkcaster to drop a counter if we do draw a land. So I'd keep this. We're on the play, so we want to stay a little aggressive with our evasive creatures as well. So looks like our opponent's either going to be Lorehold or Prismari leading on this campus. Looking like Lorehold, which is decent for us. We have a really good curve here. So we get to go Shadewing, and then next turn we get to play Combat Professor, and we can actually pump Killian, give it Vigilance. It's got Menace. It's difficult for our opponent to deal with. We gain 3 off of it. And our opponent has to decide between killing Killian and killing Shadewing, and both these creatures are very good. Okay. So we'll just play our Combat Professor. And now since we know that we're going to be racing, because our opponent has a Pledge range, we can just go ahead and put it on Killian, gain some life. And Inkcaster next turn actually gives us 2-turn lethal if our opponent doesn't have removal spell for Laureate or Combat Professor, because we play Inkcaster, drop a counter on Laureate, and then we... Okay, so our opponent does have removal for Combat Professor. Unfortunately, it was really efficient removal. So that does kind of suck for us because it tells us that we're not going to be able to get through on the ground because they get a chance to play stuff. So let's say, for instance, this was a Destroy effect on Combat Professor. I mean, you can't really play around Swords to Plowshares. If they had a Destroy effect, then it's not as harmful because we get a counter on the Shadewing, and then we can drop a counter on Killian, and we can attack and drain with Inkcaster. And if it's not a 1-mana removal spell, then they have to, you know, they don't get a chance to develop this Stonebound Mentor here. Anyways, we're just going to play Inkcaster here. We'll go ahead and attack for 3. We can drain them for 1. This is the nice part about Inkcaster, is it gives us pseudo reach where we can kind of just burn our opponent. Our opponent doesn't really have a chance to attack based on the way their board is constructed right now. But we do need to be careful. We could fall behind here. Luckily, we have quite a few removal spells, so if we could get rid of like Pledge Mage or the Mentor, then maybe we can start attacking through. That does kind of suck. Now we can't really attack on the ground. We will play out our creatures, though. Some of them are a little mopey, but at the same time, we have this, which we can start looping back and forth, which does give us more land drops and more ability to kind of hang around in the late game. We obviously have 7 mana, so... This tells me they probably have a pump spell, and I'm not really under any pressure to block, so I'm just going to say no blocks here. Like, I don't really care about our life total. We're still at 21, which is higher than when we started. And now if they just have... Okay, they have kill everything. Sure. Again, that's a card you can't really play around too much. You can't really play around a rat spell like that. We'll put Pilgrim back in our hand and then try to get caught back up, I guess. So we'll get hit by Shredder here, then we get to play Pilgrim, which can block Shredder, so we'll have to activate it. So we'll play Pilgrim. They have a Lorehold Campus, so they do have some late game. We'll get this back. And now we have enough mana that we can just loop this every turn until we draw something. Alright, so Killian does count as drawing something. Just go ahead and no attacks here. If they attack with Tome Shredder when it's a 3-3, then we'll just block, and then we can loop it back. They should exile something with Tome Shredder here. Unless they have something in their hand that cares about exiling things from the graveyard. We'll see. But yeah, you can't really play around like a Devastating Mastery. Honestly, you can't play around swords either. But yeah, you want to play around choice commons and uncommons. I wouldn't really worry too much about the rares. Unless you have the luxury to play around it, I wouldn't. That's kind of scary. They could cast Swords and Pigment Storm. Grab our summonings here. We'll just make our flyer. Yeah, we've got the makings of a good nuts and bolts kind of deck here. So if they attack with Flame Painter, we just block with Pilgrim, and then we'll buy it back, and we'll play it again. Eventually, we'll run out of lands to get, and we'll have most of them fished out of the deck. So we will draw cards as we go. It's a form of pseudo card advantage. It's not amazing, but we do have a clock, and we have a blocker. So if they have a pump spell here, like the +3/+1 in Trample, that's pretty unfortunate for us. However, I don't think we're beating it, so we kind of just block and let our opponent play what they get. Drawing Swamp there is pretty unfortunate. We'll just go ahead and play the Pilgrim. So we have 3 lands left. We're going to want to attack for 2 here. Opponent could have an Expel. Maybe that's why they were holding on to something. Until they can trample through, though, this Pilgrim will block and blank Flame Painter. I could have even considered an attack with Killian there. I wasn't sure if I wanted to because of them having a Tome Shredder. If they make the same attacks next turn, I probably will. Honestly, I probably should have attacked with Killian. I should have considered this. I was thinking about Expel, but if they're not expelling the Inkling, then they're probably not going to have Expel. Okay, I like casting Mage Hunters like this. And just going after the Tome Shredder here. I think we could probably apply Lethal. But I think applying Lethal is kind of risky when we could just make a safe attack like this. So let's say they had like block, expel. So they block Symbiology, expel, attack, swords, and Pigment Storm. We lose our whole board. And that doesn't sound very good to me. Just make blocks like this again. Bring back Pilgrim. Over time, this Pilgrim will get all the lands out of our deck. That is a super unfortunate draw. I think we've only got 1 left now. If they go block, block. Yeah, we can't really make attacks. We kind of just have to wait. Unfortunately, we can only push 2 damage. Let's see here. If they go for the Flame Painter again, I'll just block with Pilgrim. They could go with the Professor, which I'm just going to take 3 then. All I really need is to draw 1 of my removal spells, and I can get through. So what happens if we go attack, 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 attack? And we play Incaster? Put some, sure. They didn't have anything. I was considering Incaster to 2, and then we've got lethal with all 3. So the question was, what do we put the counter on? I was going to put it on the Symbiology. All right, welcome to game 2. This hand is kind of medium. I do have a Lash for early interaction. I am playing 17 lands. I think we're talking ourselves into a bad keep. I think we mulligan here. This hand looks much better. So we'll mulligan and throw back Spectre of the Fens, I think. We want to have Lash just as early removal. And I think it's good to have Humiliate to just take a look at what our opponent's doing and take the most threatening thing they could play. Right now we're on a pure control hand. So they've got Solve the Equation, Pillar Drop Warden, Frost Trickster, Tempted. This takes up to 3 CMC. Or Serpentine Curve. I think I kind of want to just take Pillar Drop Warden here. That lets them get back whatever they want later on in the game. And we can kind of just play the long game here with our opponent. Serpentine Curve is pretty dangerous, though. Takes a long time for that to get online, though. Oh, Approach of the Second Sons? That's very bad for us. Okay, so we can no longer play the long game with our opponent as they searched out an Approach of the Second Sons. We know they don't really have removal, though. I mean, I guess they could tempt it. Sure, take my Leech. That's fine. I think I'm just going to go ahead and Lash this. This is going to be a very hard game for us to win, though. Playing the long game with a deck like this that has an Approach is not great. Alright, so... I'll have them sacrifice a creature and we will return our Leech Fanatic. So we'll play our land. So this is an okay situation for us. They're not at Approach of the Second Sons yet, but they are really close, and I don't think we're going to have the pressure to kill them here. Again, not really something that you play around. It's a Mythic Mystical Archive. Okay, we'll play Dueling Coach here. I'll drop a counter on this Leech Fanatic. This does mean if our opponent doesn't rush out the Approach of the Second Sons, then they're going to be probably in trouble. Serpentine Curve doesn't do anything here because we have Mage Hunter's Onslaught to kill it. It's also pretty small still. Yeah, I think I just want to play the Inkcaster. I'll put the counter on itself. One thing that's kind of scary is this artist can start ramping out Approach of the Second Sons. They're stuck on lands right now, though. I'm just going to go ahead and try to kill this now. See what happens. Alright. Opponent playing Negate is pretty loose. I would not ever play around Negate. I think we're just attacking for 3. Okay. That's definitely bad for us. So they had Burying Books plus... Yeah, that's probably losing right there for us. I guess we could have offered the trade the turn they played this. Yeah, here opponent just jams Approach. I mean, they're at 26. And they have the mana to cast it, so we're dead in 7 turns. Guess we're going to figure out a way to try to kill our opponent. We will drain them for 4. So this is kind of what I meant by playing the long game. We have a really strong late game with these 2 ink casters and a dueling coach, but they're going to double serpentine curve here. Ooh. 2/6/6 fractals. I don't see us beating this. And approaches 5 down now. 6. All right. We know we have a Leech Fanatic this turn. Just get ready to put a counter on our dueling coach. It's about the best we can do. This would have been much better if we had our Leech Fanatic with a counter, and then we could have slow played Inkcaster and built up a board. But for now, we're just kind of in a lot of trouble. And our opponent's not going to attack with these fractals, even though they could pressure us really hard. They know there's no reason to. The second Suns is coming. I guess playing something in the air is not terrible. Next turn, we could target Dueling Coach and attack with it and still activate it. Wouldn't be awful. We're gonna have to figure out a way, though. We got 4 turns. Wow. Alright, our opponent has a Snow Day, too. That's really bad, because now they draw 2. Yep, I don't think we're beating the approach. We would need to draw a counterspell that we can't play. Rough. I mean, this is just one of those games that is tough to win. Opponent just had kind of the good answers for us. They had, like, the negate. The negate was huge, because we could have pushed a lot of damage. That's one of the situational cards I probably wouldn't play, but it does have some implications, and it's okay. If you're going to play something that's situational, I think negate is the best one to play in this archetype. Yeah, we don't even get to untap our Dueling Coach and our Combat Professor before they cast Approach. Oh, our opponent had a Magma Opus as well. Interesting. Our opponent had a really, really good deck. Alrighty, we are dead. Two Mythic rares. Hard to beat that. Okay, here we are with game 3. This is decent. I'll keep this. I'm pretty happy to keep double Killian in hand. If they kill the first one, then we get the second one. And this card's very good. I'm gonna go ahead and Essence Infuse the first one. I think just putting a 4/4 Menace on the board is pretty powerful here. I think I'm gonna destroy both in attack. Being aggressive here is gonna reward us a lot. Like, this is 6 points, and then we have to assume that they have to have a removal spell for Killian, or they're kind of in trouble, because Dueling Coach can drop a counter if we draw land. But if they have a removal spell for Killian, then we have second Killian. But right now we are on just 1 card. But if they have removal spell here, we attack in for 2, assuming Mage Hunter's Onslaught is what I would guess. Combat Professor. Okay. Alright, so Laureate's decent here. We are hoping to get to this dueling coach, though. Alright, Guiding Voice. Getting... Oh, Introduction to Annihilation? That's pretty slow. I think we can just kill our opponent. They would need removal spell right now, and it must not be Expel. Most removal at this point would be sorcery speed, so we'll see it beforehand. Oh, we sack a creature? Okay, we'll sack that. I think we're just attacking with Killian here. They're gonna double. We need to kill the combat professor. Then we'll just play a dueling coach. We'll drop a counter here on the Laureate. We at least have a threat now. Worst case scenario, their introduction draws us a card. I'll chump here on the, or I'll block here on the Leech Fanatic. We're choked on lands anyways, so dueling coach isn't really doing that much. Sure. We get to see our land, or we get to see our card now beforehand. Oh, that's huge. Definitely not blocking. All right, we'll play Dramatic Finale now. We'll block. Our late game is fantastic. They just use an Introduction to Annihilation. This is so strong. Play our professor. Target our coach. They're under pressure. They're under a lot of pressure here, so they really should be. They should be considering a block. The only problem is the Inklings are just as bad for them. Next turn we get to force blocks. Okay. That's a little awkward for us. Opponent does have a chance to bring this back, though. Interesting enough, if they block with Spiteful Squad, put the counters on the Leech Fanatic. I think they should have blocked the Squad and given the Life Blinker. Now we get to make it just impossible for our opponent to block, to attack. Okay. Alright, well, I mean, we have a stream of flying blockers that can just kind of blank this for a while until we get a chance to catch up. We have removal spells that can handle this as well. We have a Mage Hunter's Onslaught. Okay, this is fine. They spent their last card to block here. This pretty much blanks Spiteful Squad forever. Killian gains us some life. This race is still advantageous for us. Just attack with this. Okay. Dramatic Finale plus Pilgrim of the Ages is going to be a loop that's very difficult for our opponent to beat. We get to kind of just do this for a while. Alright, we get to look at our opponent's hand here. I'll give this flying. Alright, so let's hear. If we attack, they go block, block, take 3, 6. They could double block. Sure. I'll drop a counter here. I think these attacks are good. Best thing that they can do is take 6 and block 2 Inklings. Here we just kill the Leech Fanatic. They might not want to throw away the other Shield Mage. Okay. We kill their Lifelinker, deal 3 damage, get another Inkling. Okay. They go block, block. Okay, so we just attack with Pilgrim. We know they're on just plains, so right now we're winning. Pilgrim of the Ages. All right. They might be inclined to not block here. Just go ahead and drain our opponent for 2. Now we have enough flying force that we should be able to just push through. Third Essence Infusion. They go to 12. They take 8, 9, 10. So they don't die. They take 9. Only got 10 lands. All right. I mean, I have another Mana Sink, so I'd rather just do this. This upgrades it to another 1/1. Or another 2/1. So it becomes a 3/1. Bring this back, play this, go get a plains, play plains. This forces a block, so we get another flyer. And our opponent has 1 less attacker, and now we have something to block in the air too. Oh, Dramatic Finale is really showing off here. And it looks like we have enough flyers now that we can push through. Finally. Finally, we will be able to kill our opponent. Alright, I was just going to block Pilgrim of the Ages on the squad and then take 11. Welcome everyone to game 4. Oh, we got a Dramatic Finale in hand. Wow, this is a very strong hand. So we get to go Killian, Pilgrim, Dramatic Finale. Or we could even play Combat Professor. This is actually kind of a crazy curve. Our 3-drop's a little mopey, but I mean, we have the Pilgrim plus Dramatic Finale, kind of like the engine. All right, so our opponent's ramping. I wonder if they're gonna grab Swamp. Nope, looks like islands. They must just be 2 colors. Go ahead and play Killian here. The green decks do sometimes tend to struggle with the flying decks. Pilgrim's going to be nice here too because it kind of just trades with all this stuff that's on the ground right now. And once we set up Dramatic Finale, we can kind of just be annoying with Pilgrim and block the big stuff all day. Okay, take my Killian. That's kind of unfortunate. Well, no blocks. Set up our finale. Now we get a chance to kind of block. Hopefully they don't have an Introduction to Annihilation or Containment Breach. Green is the best color for dealing with stuff like this, so. Maybe they do have a red splash here. Sure, so we just take 2. Now we get to give our Pilgrim Vigilance and attack with it, which makes it free for the attack. So now we get to kind of start pressuring our opponent's life total as well. The longer we can keep this established, the harder it's going to be for our opponent to play through. Could be a Bury in Books here. Deal 2 damage, create a treasure. Okay, yeah, we'll just lash the Killian. I'm okay with this Pilgrim dying and giving me a Dramatic Finale. Our opponent could have a Elemental Masterpiece, right? The get a 2 4/4s or whatever. Oh, just draw a bunch. All right. That seems fine for our opponent. That's quite good. We'll block here. Put a counter on our Professor. Go ahead and put a Vigilance on our Professor. We'll attack. I'm going to lash this island just to kind of cut down on our opponent's mana a little bit. That maybe they can't 2-spell this turn or something, or maybe if they do draw a big 7-drop, they can't cast it. We're definitely losing the value game right now. I'd be okay with trading Incaster for either one of these. Okay, our opponent's just going to take the damage. I mean, they're falling behind pretty quick in life total. They're kind of just dying. They might even be in a situation where they can't attack. Okay. Needlethorn Drake's interesting. That changes some stuff. 4/4 unblockable, sure. Lash was a great draw here. Alright, yeah, our opponent's just dead. We had the ability to attack with Dueling Coach and then activate. Alrighty, everybody, here we are with game 5. Looks like we mulligan this one. This seems okay. I think we can throw back Essence Infusion. Yeah, it's probably worse than the alternative, which is throwing back Silver Quill Command. I guess we could have thrown back Inkcaster. The nice thing about Symbiology is we can dig it back out of the graveyard with our Silver Quill. We get our 3-drop here, which is nice. At least we have something to play on curve. Pilgrim's a little annoying for us. I think we just attack. These little Inklings in this deck do a lot of work, though. These little 2/1 flyers. Which one is that? This is the whenever an opponent attacks, one or more planeswalker control. Oh yeah, this is fine. We get to choose target opponent's sacks, and we return Symbiology. Return that. Target our opponent. They sack Mila. I actually don't want to rummage. It's nice because we even got to deny them the card. We still have a removal spell too, which is good. If this does get large or something, we can push through it. Sure. Alright, we'll play Inkcaster here, target the Spectre. Actually, maybe we target Symbiology here. No, let's target the Spectre. We did give up our mana sink right here, though. We get to kill the Shield Mage. They have a God's Willing? Oh. Okay. Yeah, it's hard to play around something like that. I don't know, that's kind of rough. Again, this is a rare Mystical Archive. It's not something I'm looking to play around too often. Alright, so we just flunked this. We're gonna have to pay 3 for it. We gotta pay the tax. Then we get to kill this. And then we just attack with everything. I'm okay with this becoming a 4/4. I think it's the best we can do. Alright. Wow, Inkcaster is an insane draw here. So this becomes a 4-power creature, which is just 2-turn lethal. This was like the best draw in our deck, along with a removal spell. Here we just block Spiteful Squad. That way we don't die. Our opponent had a red land. Alrighty, everybody. Here we are with game 6. Oh, this hand's definitely good. We'll keep this. So we just now hit 4 and 1, which means that this deck, no matter what, is positive rank for us. So that's kind of the point that we're trying to establish here, is making positive rank decks. But obviously, we can try to go as far as we can. Killian is just a great starting card. Honestly, it's by far one of the best 2-drops in the set. If not, maybe the best one. Alright, let's attack for 2. We have a Lash if our opponent plays something. Yeah. I'll develop here. We'll go with Lifelink. Frost Trickster already gets its value, though, locking down Killian. We do want to push that 3 damage, though. Here we're kind of on top deck mode, though. Oh, 2 Pledge Mages? Alright. I mean, I'll offer a trade with one of the Pledge Mages. I'm not going to offer Killian here. Squad's an interesting one, too. Because if we can squad and get the counters on Killian, it can start attacking. Depends on what our opponent has here next. These black-white decks tend to be slanted towards aggression, just in general. Most of the stuff is pretty aggressive. You do have some late-game engines, but a lot of times you just want to use your removal spells to start pushing damage. We have a pretty threatening board here, too. 2 evasive creatures and a Death Toucher. Okay. This looks fine to me. We'll offer both. So our opponent is making low EV plays to try to protect their life total, which is what's helping catch us up in card advantage. So right now we're basically on dead draws, right? But it depends on what they have, because they don't have a mountain here. If they don't have a mountain here, they can't play any real removal spells besides Divide by 0. Divide by 0 just puts Killian back in play again. They do get to look at their draw 3, though. This is where Prismari starts to shine. What is this? Oh, this is the Phoenix that comes back when you learn. Okay. I mean, we get to hit for 9 here. Or we get to hit here for 4, knock them down at 9. I mean, we're kind of starting to force our opponent to, you know, like, have something for real. They need to have removal spells. Where do I make an attack? I'm gonna start developing Pilgrim. Fish a land out of our deck. Maybe that helps out in the future. It gives us more ability to activate Spectre later. I mean, Retriever Phoenix just sitting back isn't really doing much. They probably cast Elemental Summonings here unless they have a kill spell for Spectre. The 4/4s kind of get blanked by Pilgrim for a while. We do have 2 more Lashes in the deck, which would be great draws right now. So Inkcaster is a good draw. Silver Quill Command's a good draw. Finale's a good draw. Mage Hunter's Onslaught's a good draw. Combat Professor's a good draw. Vanishing Verse, Killian, even Humiliate, Flunk, Lash. All these are good draws. So almost our whole deck is a good draw here besides lands. This is the thing that exiles stuff off the top, right? Sure, I'm gonna attack with both. Sure, we'll go with both. Kill that rare, so that way we're not behind to it. And rather than pushing the 2 damage from Spectre, I think I want to get Pilgrim back in our hand. I don't want to let Nasari start playing stuff off the top of our deck. Opponent just played a draw 3, that's pretty good. Here, I do think it's better to just attack. And then we're probably going to activate. We've got our last land, so now we've got 9 lands now, so we can play Pilgrim. Opponent really needs another learn card. Apprentice doesn't matter too much. If they're on elemental summonings, they're actually just dead. Yeah. So I think our opponent's just dead. We get to kind of just kill them. The Spectre of the Fence kind of just gives us reach. Play Essence Infusion here. I don't think there's anything they could have. Oh, they could have the Academic Dispute, the thing that gives reach. Okay, I think they're dead. Yep, we got them. Alrighty, everybody. Here we are with game 6. I'll go ahead and keep this hand. This hand's good. There's a chance our opponent may be disconnected. We may be skipping forward here. Alright, and it did look like our opponent was disconnected there, so sorry about that one. We're going to have to skip forward a match. We'll just cut this one out of the video. And here we are with game 8. I don't know whether or not I want to keep this hand. I think this one's probably a keep. It's pretty close. It doesn't really have a lot of gas going early, but it does have a pretty powerful late game here with this Inkcaster plus Squad and Coach. A lot of mana sinks. We have a Humiliate early to try to protect ourselves. So we'll just play Humiliate on 2. Wow, second Inkcaster. We just take Heated Debate here. We're okay with giving them the Spectacle Mage. We just don't want them to remove our stuff. Here we'll play Shadewing, then we'll put the counter on Dueling Coach, or on Shadewing from Dueling Coach. Go ahead and drop the counter on the 2/2. Go ahead and attack. And we have a good racing situation. We have double Inkcaster, so we're in pretty good shape here. If our opponent doesn't add too much to the board, they're going to be in some trouble. Play the Inkcaster here. Add a counter to the Coach. Go ahead and make attacks. Get double drain triggers. If they have a pump spell, that's fine. Sudden Breakthrough is what would be kind of bad for us. They can block the Sudden Breakthrough. I think they were just looking to block the Dueling Coach because they're going to be under some pressure here. They're just scrying. Ooh, that looks bad for our opponent. This curve does actually really punish, especially since we drew the 3-drop. We Humiliate, take away the removal spell, play 3-drop, 4-drop, 5-drop, start draining them, keep attacking. And that's, I mean, honestly, how Black-White wins. I mean, we play second Inkcaster next turn and just kill them. But there you have it. We got 6 wins with this deck. Unfortunately, we did get a disconnect, so we got 1 free win. But you can see, 7 wins. Black-White's totally able to do it. Silver Quill, I think, is actually pretty decent. So let's take a look at this deck real quick. I see some things that really stand out in this deck. So obviously Dramatic Finale carried us through quite a few games. But the big thing is this Pilgrim of the Ages loop with it was really, really powerful. And then I think this deck also showcased just how strong some of the 1/1 counters cards could really be. So you see Tenured Inkcaster just pushes through so much extra damage, gives us reach. And we had more reach with Spectre of the Fens. Combat Professor helped out a little bit. Dueling Coach gave us a decent late game. And we just supplement that with some early game in Killian, Laureate. Pledge Mage was kind of just filler in this deck with some good, and then you supplement that with good removal. So good early removal in Lash, and good late game removal in Mage Hunter's Onslaught, Vanishing Verse, and Humiliate. Sometimes pulled some weight just on ways to do it. But if you guys are looking to rank up this season, because we're on a fresh season, I definitely recommend you could check out a deck that looks like this if you were looking to get some wins. However, I think just keep your heads up if you guys are struggling. Make sure that you really focus on getting a positive win rate. If it's 4-3, you'll get there eventually. Just keep going.